the government's decision to cancel question hour in the monsoon session of Parliament, which begins on the 14th of September because of the COVID pandemic, is now generating growing resentment among opposition MPs. This is the first hour in the House which allows members to ask the government questions, having given notice 10 days earlier. There will be no private members' business. The hour set aside for bills put up by MPs, but there will be, it seems, a 0 hour slotted for members to raise matters of public importance. But even that has been cut short to 30 minutes, we're told. Well, Rajya Sabha member Derek O'Brien of the Trinamool Congress has already tweeted on this and raised several questions. If we can get Derek O'Brien's tweet up on our screens. He is saying MPs are required to submit questions for question hour in Parliament 15 days in advance. The session starts on the 14th of September. So is question hour cancelled? Opposition MPs are losing the right to question the government. This is a first since 1950, he says. Parliament's overall working hours remain the same. So why cancel question hour? This is a pandemic excuse to murder democracy. Sharp, sharp words from the Trinamool's Derek O'Brien in that tweet. All right, we are being joined right now on the phone line by Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who's a third-term member of Parliament and senior spokesperson of the Congress. Dr. Singhvi, thank you for speaking with NDTV. Your reactions at this hour to what we've been hearing. You know, Derek O'Brien makes the point that this is an attempt to stifle the voice of democracy, to stop opposition MPs from asking questions. Your position on this, Mr. Singhvi?
Look, let me start by saying that I appreciate the dilemma of the administrators and the chairman, that we are in COVID times and we need to be very, very careful, and every safeguard must be taken, to which I don't think any right-thinking person is objecting. But on balance, if you see the overall perspective, this is an unnecessary restriction. I'll tell you why. A, it is not supposed to be a cosmetic or truncated parliamentary session. B, we have not met for over almost 6 months. Not 6 months, but almost 6 months. C, you are having and can have distancing and separate rooms and separate halls and separate, the lower chamber meeting differently and the upper chamber meeting differently. And with those safeguards, you can easily include the question hour.
All
number
right.
four.
So then
four.
why, in your opinion, is it not happening?
Number four. So therefore, safeguards or time cannot be a reason. And number four, question hour is acknowledged widely the world over as being the principal instrument of parliamentary inquisition. Parliament is the grand inquest of the nation. The whole idea is to inquisitorially deal with the government and extract facts. Now, this being the position, I think I'm not attributing motives immediately, but I am certainly saying that there is an attempt to just make it kind of a cosmetic lip service that we had a parliamentary session without allowing full play to the thrust and cut and the vigor and the vitality which goes into a parliamentary session. And I think that is, in one sense, it will be the worst of both the worlds instead of the best of both the worlds.
But Dr. Singhvi, it seems the government has tried to approach various opposition leaders and explain the reasons for doing what it is doing. It seems, Rajnath Singh called up several opposition leaders, including the Congress's Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. What is your party's official position on the fact that there is going to be no question hour? Is this something that the Congress has agreed to?
No, this is what we have. I've just told you all the last 5 minutes I've been saying this. The question hour should be held. Obviously, this is a stand, and 1 hour adding to the sessions will not make any difference to the safeguard. There is no reason to curtail. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, merely because you telephone me doesn't mean my consent. At the end of the day, the government decides, and they've decided. And I don't think it is, you see, if here was a government which refused to close Parliament right when the lockdown was at its peak. There was 100% lockdown. And still for about 10 days, Parliament went on. Even masks were not permitted. And here is a government which is bending the other way around. So I don't think there is proportionality and sense in this. And some give and take, some humility, some, accommodation spirit will easily solve it. You extend the time. Have the distancing is already there. How does it matter to have 1 hour question hour?
So, Dr. Singhvi, are you then also questioning the fact that the overall hours seem to remain the same? So why has question hour then been singled out?
Not only the overall hours. I see no concept behind it. I mean, how do you increase the safeguards against COVID by not having question hours? That's the real issue. As it is, if you meet for 1 hour or 5 hours, the safeguards are the same. The safeguards have to be maintained. You are not exactly sure how we are going, but I'm told there are different halls, different timings, different shifts, so to say, if you call it shifts. Well, that is sufficient for safeguards. Now, if you add an hour or you don't add an hour, it doesn't make any difference to the safeguard. I think, it's a major letting off of government inquisition. Not to have question hour makes it a very, very tame, mild kind of a parliamentary session. Parliament is not supposed to be a mild or a kind of a lapdog kind of situation that you are just sitting and formally asking questions for the sake of it in some discussion. Question hour has as I said, razor sharp questions. Then there are supplementaries. It puts the government on the mat. It forces the minister to disclose. It pins down or corners. And this is a constructive way. It's not negative. This is what parliamentary democracy is. I mean, this is when I say corners and puts on the mat, it doesn't mean that we are making a negative point. You are actually...
But having said this, Dr. Singhvi, now that there is going to be no question hour, what is the Congress's strategy going to be? How are you, in fact, going to ensure that Parliament retains some of its inquisitorial nature, as you call it?
You see, let us be clear, in a democracy, I cannot put my hand inside your throat and extract something. I can only make you aware. I can talk to the press as I am now doing. I can make the nation aware of why you should have it. Beyond that, the government takes the risks of people believing that this is not accountability. And at the end of the day, if the government is on some kind of an ego trip or a inflexibility mode, then it is their call. But I think the large sentiment of people across the political spectrum is this. And I would be the first to support the government in case there was a real, genuine health safeguard issue.
Right.
There is none.